Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Well, today we're going to be talking about, well, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but we're going to be talking about something very educational. It is the 12 steps. And mind you, an educational look at the 12 steps. This is in no way a replacement for any sort of addiction or help. If you feel like you do have a problem with anything, please go to talk to your nearest healthcare provider or even your local chapter of your favorite 12-step program. But this is just to learn a little bit about it and maybe even dispel some myths, because TV shows do a horrendous job, in my humble opinion, talking about these and how they work. But this is just the 12 steps. So I think most people know, like, the first step, it's almost become a meme. The first step is admitting you have a problem, but there's more to it. So thank you, everyone that is here now and that will be watching on the replay. It is already, we have ourselves a polar bear. Hello, hello, humans and other critters. It says Snortapoopus Huber. Thank you for being here and on your little island, or rather your iceberg. I hope it doesn't melt too badly during the summer months, because we love our polar bear. Um, I'm actually a believer that the 12 steps are good for everybody, right? Now, hear me out. I'm not saying it's a replacement if you've got a real problem. If you got a real problem, go to a doctor. But some of these philosophies are really good. And there's a reason why it works with people with addictions, but can work in your everyday life as well. So let's just go a little bit about into the history of the 12 steps. It began once upon a time. There was a man named Bill W. He was an alcoholic, and really in a bad way. He was practically drinking himself to death. And he knew that he had to stop drinking, but was having trouble, etc. And then he had a friend who got sober through something called the Oxford group. Nothing to do with the other Oxford group. I think the Tolkien and the gang, but they had these certain tenets. Now, this was a Christian-based group, and we're going to see that why he decides to change it up a little bit. Something very close to my heart, says Salty Traveling Sea, Al-Anon. Ah, yes, yes. Al-Anon, for those that don't know, it is for those who have loved ones that are alcoholic or addicted to other things, because eventually it branched out beyond alcoholism. And Bill W.'s wife was the founder of it because, well, she knew all about it. Okay, so this Oxford group, they had some tenets that to help get sober, etc., you had to have a complete deflation, a dependence on God, make a moral inventory, confession, restitution, and continued work with others in need. So this was kind of the start of his sober journey. To make a very long story short, Bill will go through some other issues, and then he will come up with what is known as the 12 steps. But credit where credit is due, and Bill never lied about it. He was always very honest about how all this came about. And before it went off to become the Alcoholics Anonymous that we know and love, the other co-founder, if you will, Dr. Bob, he ran into him because he was really tempted to take a drink and just felt like he needed to talk to someone. It's like, I need to talk to a drunk. So he called around, and apparently everyone knew that Dr. Bob was a drunk. So he bumps into Dr. Bob, and they start sharing and talking. And they found that by sharing their stories about being alcoholics and what to do about it and to support each other, they found that they were able to kind of remain sober. And they're like, dudes, this kind of works. And it grew into Alcoholics Anonymous and all of that. So Dr. Bob was also a part of all of this. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone coming in. Please smash that like button. So let's get to the actual 12 steps. Slithers of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, you might recognize. He did have a Jesuit advisor, and Sister Ignatia, Dr. Bill W. Worked with Sister Ignatia, who came up with a lot of the customs of Alcoholics Anonymous, such as always having a coffee at a meeting and the chips. She would have a scapular that she would give to people when they'd leave, and she would her hospital ward, she had a ward with inpatient people, and she would say, "You can have another drink, but first you have to come and give me this back." The idea is, as long as you had that would help you not have another drink. So that's where the chip custom came from. So Ignatian aspects are in these 12 steps. So let's start from the very beginning. Step number 1, the one that makes the meme. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Now, everyone out there, for your own personal use, you can substitute alcohol with just about anything. The official ones are things like gambling, uh, things that rhyme with mugs. I don't know if we're allowed to even say that, but what's another one? Oh, overeating. There's an official OA, and I think sexaholics, the official ones, but unofficial. You could throw anything in there, anything that you find that makes your lives become unmanageable. It could even be something like social media. It could be YouTube. It could be anything. So you could just throw that in. That's why I say that this is not necessarily just for people with severe addictions. It is Meteor Advocate Timon. Hello. Hello, everyone. Can't stay. I'm having an online class at the moment. Have a great stream. I'll leave it on but muted. Bye. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And hopefully maybe you can get something out of it. So that's step 1. And this is for many, the hardest part, because you have to admit that you're powerless over it. So you can't just say I have a problem. You can't say I have that you can't be helped. Or rather, by your own willpower alone, you cannot overcome this. It needs to go a step further, and that your life had become unmanageable. That's step number 1. Step number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Power greater than ourselves, yourselves. You're going to see that it's sometimes called God, but there's many different ways that people see this power outside of themselves. The whole idea is you're getting outside of yourself. All addictions have a lot of its root in me, 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 me. I've been talking a lot about narcissism and stuff. It's similar. It's similar. You got to get outside of yourself. Though we're not talking about a personality disorder in this situation. So we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And the key word sanity, not necessarily literally insane, because if you're literally insane, yes, you've got some other issues, but that there is a sort of insanity that goes along with any kind of obsession. You're not acting rationally. So you need to through this higher power to get yourself into a way of right thinking. Some will say, I don't have a drinking problem, I have a thinking problem. Step number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So if you already believe in God, yay, well, that was easy, wasn't it? But also, as we understood him. Now, this key word, as we understood him, is huge. First of all, we're talking in the 1930s. We're not talking about a modern relativistic idea like you understand God. But they're also trying not to narrow it down because everyone has different understanding of God, whether you're talking about a different religion, whether you're talking about even a different Christian denomination, whether you're talking about whether you believe in God at all or as you understand him. There's atheists that have been able to do the 12 steps, agnostics, that whole as we understood him and that higher power. Some people have said it's even just the group, the idea that working together as a group, we can do this. So it's very personal for you, but you do need to give yourself over to the care of God, a higher power. Hello, Taylor Swift, greater than Disney Star Wars. Thank you for being here. So that's step number 3. This one can be tricky, especially if someone has had a bad experience with religion. Again, just keep remembering that it is as you understand him. People that know from my Catholic explaining, I have a pretty strong belief about what God is, but that's not what we're talking about here. Step number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. This is where you can see a lot of this Ignatian thing coming in and from the Christian tradition, like an examination of conscience, but this is on a whole other level. A searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. So you can't sit around and say, well, I wouldn't have been such a jerk if this other person had been a jerk. No, it's you. And you've got to look within yourself and all the ugliness, warts and all of that. And it has to be fearless. It has to be honest. And then step number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This is something that's very familiar to me because that's what we do in confession. We admit to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. I think for those that maybe don't have auricular confession, this one might be tricky, I don't know, but, the whole idea is not only do you have to do a moral inventory of yourself, but you've got to admit to your higher power, to yourself, you cannot lie to yourself, and to another human being. You've gotta be held accountable and held honest. So that is step number 5, the exact nature of our wrongs. Oh, I already acknowledged Taylor Swift. Step number 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So you got to say, hey, if I'm a jerk, if I'm a douche or whatever, I've got to be ready to have these go. I got to let go of this. And I've got to let the higher power do it. Some are like, well, what does this have to do with addiction? It's like, well, if you think about it, not saying that addiction is necessarily a moral failure. There are physical aspects of it, but what is the trigger? What is going on with these defects of character? It's just a part of cleansing, getting rid of all the junk. Step number 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. That's something that we do in confession when we say the act of contrition before we receive absolution. And I firmly resolve with the help of your grace to sin no more and to avoid the near occasions of sin. So not only do you realize your shortcomings, but you ask your higher power to remove them. I think we can see why in TV shows they never get this far in the steps because it's not as much fun, if you will. But I've said before, I have issues with how these are presented in TV shows. It's almost never accurate. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And that means all of them. So if you've hurt anybody, And it doesn't necessarily have to be through your addiction. It just anyone that you have hurt, anyone that you have harmed, and you have to be willing to make amends. Hey, I'm sorry I did this. What can I do to make this right? Sometimes that is not possible, but at least to become willing to do it. This is a way of not being selfish, getting this selfishness, getting this me out of your system. Oh, people are saying hello, hello, and or hawoo if you are a polar bear. So we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, even the ones you don't like. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. I think this is kind of self explanatory. If you can make amends wherever possible, do it. A simple example, if you stole money from someone, well, pay him back the money, except when to do so would injure them or others. There's several things that could be there. Like, should you bring up something maybe someone was not aware of, those kind of areas, but that's where someone with more expertise than I can help a person through this. Again, this is not a way of looking at this is not for people that are actually looking to join one of these things. This is just an educational look at it. Like, this is what the 12 steps are. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Part of my life, examination of conscience every night. This is something, again, this is where I'm saying the Ignatius influence is coming through, the Catholic influence, the tradition of taking a personal inventory, and when you're wrong, promptly admitted it. So it's not just a one-time deal. You have to continue to examine your conscience and admit it. Through my fault, through my own fault, through my most grievous fault. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, and promptly admitted it. Step number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Again, looking to a power outside of yourself to carry out what your will is with God or your higher power. Look who it is in the chat. It is Potato Revan. He says, through my fault, I am an idiot so high. Yes. No. So that is step number 11. And then last but certainly not least, step number 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. You're changing your life, changing your way of thinking, changing the way you're going to move forward. We tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So part of that is reaching out to help other people. The concept behind it is that by helping another alcoholic, it keeps you sober or any other addiction. And to practice these principles in all our affairs and to continue, not just your personal life and your work life. Getting things in order. It is beyond my expertise to talk about how this works specifically with addiction, but these are the principles. And I would say if you try to use these in your own life, not even in relation to an addiction, I think that there is a great deal of benefit in a lot of these. But that makes it the 12 steps. I mentioned earlier how I get a little bit cranky the way TV shows show them or the way that these addiction groups work. Often they'll have people like grilling other people at these meetings. That's not the way it works. It's all very private and also anonymous. The anonymous part is very important and it's really, really strict because if people don't know that it's anonymous, maybe people won't come to these meetings if they know that people are gonna blab, and it's like the seal of confession. It's really serious to break an anonymity or to share what you've heard at a meeting in any way, and that's where TV shows often get it. TV shows also get it wrong when they act like it's a problem when someone is going to these meetings. Actually, if you know that someone who has an addiction, you want them in a 12-step program. You want them in these. You you don't want them continuing on with their lives as they are. But a lot of the concepts here are about getting your life in order, managing your life. I said earlier, even though these are not official parts of any kind of 12-step program, I see a lot of this kind of thinking and the temptation in what we call YouTube sickness, for example, social media addiction, TikTok stuff. When I go to the gym and I see people, instead of focusing on their workout, they're focused on making their next video. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it's like, no, you need to clean yourself out. And this is where the 12 steps, I think, are very helpful. And to me, it's fascinating how the side effect, if you will, is addiction. And let's see. Oh, look who's here. It is Zax. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, good afternoon to you. And if you want to specifically learn about Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a really good movie with James Woods. He played Bill W. He actually got an Emmy for it. That was back before everyone hated him. And Lieutenant Dan played his friend, the one who got sober first. This has been extended even to gaming. I think there is was it Online Gaming Anonymous? I don't know how many official ones they are, but unofficial as well. Potato Reverend says, "I've seen a TikTok smash room I wanna go, though I may break more than the room." Oh, smash room. Okay, understood. Yeah. I decided to go ahead and share these because, first of all, most people don't even know what they are, but also, I'm running out of crazy people. I can only do so much about narcissists and sociopaths. So if anyone who is listening who maybe wants to comment in the chat or in the comments about some other kind of psychological things or self-help, please go ahead and let me know. I would definitely I would definitely love to hear your thoughts because I've really been enjoying kind of reflecting on my own life as I'm doing this. Potato Ribbon says, video game addiction, online addiction, got you game addiction. Yep. Mhm. Oh my gosh. Engagement farming. That's an addiction. Now, once you've seen it, though, you can't unsee it. Someone will just say something so outrageous, and everyone's got to comment on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why do you think this person said this? You're giving them exactly the attention that they ordered. Potato Bread says, analyze Christian, the world's most documented person. Am I missing something there? Oh gosh, am I going to sound silly? Well, I'm not going to analyze any specific people because that's probably not fair. Let me Google. Everybody Google. Yes, I would have been occasionally guilty of blind auditing, but or blind iteming rather, but sometimes you do need to do that to protect people's anonymity. And usually no one really knows who the people who I'm referring to either. Oh, I'm sorry, please don't hate me. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Well, this is going to be a short one for today. I just decided to go ahead and crank this bad boy out because I love doing my Monday musings. And let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. And all that jazz. So thank you for being here in the chat. Potato Revan, sort of Poopus Cooper. Potato Revan, you should do food addiction. Oh, interesting. Zach's sort of Poopus Cooper. Taylor Swift, meter advocate Timon. Well, I don't want to go too much into specific addictions because that probably wouldn't be fair because food addiction, gambling addiction, to a certain degree, even alcohol and others, cigarettes. That's the other one I think. Well, they some have a physical component. They're all from the same wellspring. And who knows? Maybe that's why the 12 steps work because it makes you think outside of yourself. I'm addicted to breathing. Well, yes, we do endorse breathing here on Miss Martin Muses for certain. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to think outside of yourself and improve your life. Thank you all for being here.